A former competitive bodybuilder turned coach, entrepreneur, and gym creator, shares a deeply personal and professional journey of growth. From the physical discipline of bodybuilding to navigating injury, opening and losing a gym during a pandemic, and reemerging as a thought leader in gym design and business strategy. Ryan represents the essence of staying relevant, continuous evolution through adversity. Through trials like chronic injury, financial strain, and professional pivots, Ryan developed deeper philosophy around performance, health, and business. His story captures what it means to adapt, to let go of ego, and repurpose hard-earned experience into mentorship, insight, and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Hawk.
No idea what you're made out of until you actually try. And the hardest thing you will ever go through is probably going to be the best thing that will ever happen to you. And that can be very hard for people to accept. It's going to get really hard, but it's okay because none of it matters because you're going to live through it all. You're going to live. And when it gets really dark and really scary, it's supposed to be like that. It's just there because you need to find yourself and it's going to make you a better person. So go through the fear with your chin up and never give up and just keep moving forward no matter how hard it gets because none of it matters. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for coming on. Okay, so let's get right into it.
All right.
How did your identity evolve from being primarily an athlete bodybuilder into a business owner and mentor?
That was probably one of the hardest transitions ever, only because coming from a bodybuilding background. So I'm 42 now. I started lifting weights at 10. I got the Hulkamania workout sets. I still have the dumbbells. Unfortunately, they're downstairs on my bookshelf. You should like they're prestige.
Next time.
Yeah, they're 32 years old and I still have them.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. And my grandparents owned a gym in the 70s. So there was like equipment left around. So I just got into working out at a young age, and I was into competitive hockey and did some martial arts and bodybuilding. I just liked lifting weights, and I was obsessed with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. So I always wanted to build a physique, and still to this day, I admire great physiques. I like the idea of a great physique that can perform well now, not just the physique.
Not just aesthetics.
Exactly. But I became obsessed with bodybuilding, and it's one of those things you can get into. I think in anything in life, you can get obsessed with something, and I got obsessed with bodybuilding. And when I decided I had to leave that behind for health reasons, for personal reasons, and also just like because I wanted to, I fast forwarded like, what does my life look at 50 or 60? Yeah. I had to let that go. But the thing is with bodybuilding, Tom, or just having a lot of muscle is like it becomes your identity. And a lot of people, if you're in a sport where, it's not really about your body. The thing about bodybuilding is every time you look in the mirror, you carries with you 24/7. It's not just about the performance that day. It's all the time. And it can really eat at you. And there's a lot of mental health conditions within the fitness community of people just obsessing over how they look. And it can be very detrimental to your mental health. So when I decided to let it go, I went from 260 pounds down to 210 pounds. It was like a 50-pound loss of muscle. So there was 3 or 4 years there where it was just like, I felt like I was losing my identity, and I knew I had to do it, but it was very difficult. It was very challenging on my ego and my confidence, and just on my wardrobe. I had to get rid of all my clothes as well, which is kind of funny. I had to downsize everything. But I also found throughout that time, like I started to love my physique more. You imagine the pinnacle of being in the greatest shape of your life, putting all this muscle, shaping it, sculpting it, and then still looking down on it, not being happy with it. It's not enough. And that's your body. That's what's difficult about that. So it was a crazy journey to go on. But at the same time, it gave me an opportunity to stop focusing on my physique solely and start focusing on my mental health and on my spirit, my character, which, when I decided to go down that journey, there was a whole other world of hurt that came along with that. Because I think when you reach out to the universe, you say, okay, I want to be a great man. It says, okay, like, you don't just become great. We're going to show you how to get there. So it was a crazy journey.
Was there a specific moment, or was it kind of a gradual realization over time that you decided to make that shift from that physical identity of who you were to, I want to be something greater, but I need to let go of that
literally a specific moment. It was about 5 a.m. in Maui, Hawaii. So it's kind of cool that it was the memory that I have. I was in Maui, Hawaii. I got up at 5 a.m. I always do morning cardio, which is still to this day, I love to do it. I like to do mobility, get early sunlight. And I went to the beach, and I was up before everybody else. And going down to the beach, and I was walking down this hill. It takes like an hour to get down, and my knees were hurting. And the whole way down, I was like, I couldn't handle like the eccentric load of walking down the hill. And I get down there and I'm sitting down on the ground, and like I can't even sit cross-legged. My hips won't open up. The right leg would go down, the left leg was up. My back was hurting. I had to like get on my knees. I'm like, it hurts to walk downhill. I'm sitting on the beach and I can't even sit here. Like I couldn't get on the ground and like just sit at a movie or something like a normal person, because it was just so much pain. And you know, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, okay, like I've got all these injuries and I've pushed myself as far as I can go. It's not going to be the big payday. There's no future in this. And I literally was looking out at the ocean, and there was this great big boat going by, like a massive yacht. And I just had this flash of like myself being like 50 and being a normal sized person on that yacht and just like healthy and enjoying life. And then I just started thinking about why I started and how I got into it, and my whole journey throughout it. And then I'm sitting in this pain and I'm looking down at these legs that are this big around. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I literally got up and I walked back to the house, and the whole way up, I just talked to myself the hour walk back up the hill. And by the time I got back to the house, I determined right then and there, I'm done. Wow. Like I'm not doing this anymore. And so that was the shift from that point forward. When I got back, I linked up with Dr. Adil Khan. If you guys don't know who he is, he's, well, you went to see, maybe we can talk about that.
Dr. Khan as well, yeah.
I was like his third patient when he came out of school. So I was one of the first people he started working with, and I went
one of the first guinea pigs.
Yeah,
nice. You're still here. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was about almost 10 years ago. And I actually still have his original business card. I found it the other day, so I'm going to have to give that to him. So that's when he was at the Gallia, way back at the Gallia clinic under Anthony Gallia.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And so I said to him, you know, this is where I'm at and what I want to do. And he's like, we can help you, you know. So he was a big part of me letting go of that past and getting healthy and regular blood work and moving forward and hormone balancing. So yeah, it was a specific moment where I let go of it and decided to move forward. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't like, there was times where I'm like, you know, I want to go back and train this way or do this, or, you know, like losing the size and there's like an inch under your shirt and you're like, I feel so small, because it's a mental health condition. Like for sure. It's it's like bigorexia. It's like the opposite of anorexia. Of like, you're so used to being big, and as soon as you lose some size, you're just like, oh my God, who am I? Yeah.
Yeah. It becomes a body dysmorphic issue. Yeah. And, you know, our ideas of what we should look like versus, you know, and how we identify, they can be so deep seated in our psychology and our confidence in who we are. I mean, coming back to, you know, why you got into, or how you got into bodybuilding, what was the primary driver behind that?
Yeah, I think that, well, I come from a very small town in the East Coast of Canada, and it was really just about being a strong man, because like we all grew up playing hockey, and it was like rough hockey, and everybody was lumberjacks. It's literally like a lumber and coal mining town, and like everybody, all the men are just tough. Like they're smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey and fist fighting at the Legion on Fridays, like, and everybody's just tough and rugged, and like it's, you know what I mean? And you're expected to kind of be like that. You're out at 12 years old running a chainsaw, cutting wood and going moose hunting and fishing and deer hunting and cleaning deer and moose, and it's just kind of a rugged environment. So there was a little bit of inspiration to just like, you're going to have to learn how to fight in this environment. You're going to have to be strong. And maybe it was a defense mechanism of like, I wanted to get big and strong. But I also always was obsessed with the human anatomy. And even to this day, if I see a sprinter, like it's cool to see a body sprint, but also the muscle fibers and like the shape of it. I just think it's one of the most beautiful things ever. So there was some good qualities behind it, but then there was any insecurities that were in there were also, you know, playing a role of wanting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think I always knew those insecurities were there. I just buried them down deep and wouldn't never admit that they were there. But the thing is, Tom, is like when you're doing an individual sport like bodybuilding or just weightlifting or anything, it's just you. And it's the most fair place you'll ever be in the world. Everything you put in, you get back out. And you're not relying on anybody. You're only relying on yourself, and you truly find out who you are in every little moment. It's all the little things that you do when no one is looking. And I found a lot of comfort in that, of being in control of that, and knowing that if whatever I apply, I get 100% back out of it. Yeah. And to me, that was very attractive, because not too many things in life are like that. You know, a lot of things are unpredictable. You're relying on other people. It's subjective because other people, like on stage wise, that's very subjective. But
of course,
that was really a small part of when I look back over all of the it's never the memories of the stage that I'm fond of. It's the moments of like by myself squatting until everything goes black and you're just like lost in the moment. And, you know, you're completely present, almost in a meditative state where nothing else matters. A sec. If I don't do this right, something's going to go wrong, and I'm right here, right now, and it's just me and this, and I'm going to give it everything I have. And you know exactly how much you gave, you know who you are, and that builds character and confidence, you know, and that takes, and you apply that to everything else in your life. So that's what was very attractive to it to me, is it was almost like I was doing the work of trying to become something better, because I was always wanted to be a better person. I wanted to have a kinder heart, make more money, be more confident, be a better speaker, but I also wanted to physically be better. And that's something I could do right then and there every day. And I was committed to it.
Yeah. It's an individual sport. So, it develops that internal grit of, well, there's no team to lean on. So I got to show up every day. I got to put in the work. And the person that I'm going to let down is myself. So, being that team of one and building that internal drive, there's so many carryovers to that, especially, there's benefits to team sports because you're working as a collective for a greater good, and you're putting the team ahead of, yourself and your needs. And then there's the individual sports, which I lump bodybuilding in that as well, because you have to put in the work for yourself to perform the best for yourself. So you get that internal drive. You don't need that external motivating factor. And a lot of athletes who come from team sports, they have a hard time, once they're done playing that sport, to keep going.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the individual athletes, they're like, well, I'm used to being alone anyway, so I'm just going to keep doing the thing by myself.
It's a forever thing.
What do you think is the primary draw? It seemed like, so bodybuilding, it was at its pinnacle, I'd say in the 80s and 90s, right? And then it kind of petered off, and then all of a sudden everything became functional exercise and, the weights, the kettlebells, all the free weights. And now it seems like there's an uptick in kind of the bodybuilding aesthetic sport side of things.
Yeah.
What do you think is kind of creating that?
Well, I think just that the very bare basics of it, the reality is anybody that tells you they don't want to have a nice physique is just straight up lying to you.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like whether you're female, you're male, you're young, or you're old, like people want to feel great. They want to look great. Do people want to be massive? Most people don't want to be really big, but most people would like to have a nice set of legs and a nice stomach and a nice chest and not loose skin. And I think that we're just, anytime you look at someone that has a nice physique, you have questions of like, this person's got discipline. You're kind of curious. Like there's an aura and an energy about them. There's a confidence usually around them, not always, but quite often. So I think at the base level, people are always going to be just attracted to that. And not just, I don't mean just like the sense of just like they're attracted to this strong character, right? It's like there's these qualities around that person. And I think at the base level, we're always going to look at that. And then on top of it, even though half the time some of those physique people aren't as healthy, we look at them and we think that that's great genetics or that they're extremely healthy, but it's not necessarily true. Yeah. A really lean physique probably wouldn't have survived 200 years ago when it had to go 30 days and across land. You need to have some body fat, and excessive amounts of muscle is hard on the heart, and it burns up a lot of calories, and you can't run, and you're not very pliable, and you're going to get injured very easily. So there's a lot, but I think at the base level, there's that, and there always will be that, but there's now this obsession with what is like the hybrid style, where people want to be muscular, but they want to be functional, and they want to be realistic of like, well, I should be able to like bend over and pick something up and not hurt myself, and tie my shoes and not get out of breath. Like, where is that line at? I think it's a very interesting time we're living in, because we know you should be strong. Like that's undeniable. There should be a level of strength. Well, how much strength? I think if you can pull your body weight up 4 or 5 times and you can do some squats, your body weight, and push up, I think that's enough. If you can farm or carry your weight or dead hang off a bar for a minute, I think that's a good indicator you're probably strong enough. How much muscle mass do you need? Not even as much as I have today. I'm about 212 pounds, maybe 8% body fat. I think anything over 200 pounds I'm 5'11" is probably pushing the limits. But if you saw how much little work I put into the bodybuilding side of like weightlifting, I maintain that muscle really easy now because of all the work that I did in the past.
Sure.
And now it's all about the functionality to be able to, you should have a good cardiovascular system. You should have a great fascia system and skeletal structure system, which we've been talking about. And you should be able to at least jump up a couple feet and jump off it and not hurt yourself, and jump side to side and be able to rotate and not crank your neck, and all these things. So I think we're in a really interesting time where people know you should have muscle. People want to have muscle, but also they want to do it in a way where they're healthy and that they're still pliable and can still pick up a racket and play a racket sport of some sort, and not hurt themselves, right?
Yeah. What kind of drew you? What made you realize that the fascial system plays that huge role and how we propel ourselves and how we move through the environment, just from an energy efficiency perspective, right?
Yeah, you know what? I acquired the information over a period of time.
Yeah.
So my muscles got the blame from me for a decade of all the pain that I had. I blame my muscle. I would roll them. I would get acupuncture. I'm not saying this stuff's not good to do, but I would get deep tissue massages. And you know what's funny? I got 100 deep tissue massages. Never felt good after one. I'd always feel tighter, right? Like almost like it, because I was putting this input into the body. It was almost like it was like, what are you doing? And probably because the muscles didn't really need that much. But I never really worked on the fascia system. I never would cup. I would never grab the skin and pull it and move it. And now I feel my skin and it's actually looser than it used to be, so tight to the muscle. Yeah. Like the fascia was just like pinned there. Yeah. And the thing is, I never really adjusted my skeletal structure either. I was compressing it, leg pressing, back squatting, doing all these things all the time to the body. And I never did anything to like relieve that or put an input into it to adjust it. And over time, I'm thinking, I'm doing all this stuff, but the pain is still there. I have lack of range of motion and but I don't have an injury there. Why can't I move my body there? Is it just because it's tight? But I'm flexible. I'm like almost hypermobile for a person. I have extremely flexible groins. And how much more mobility do I need? Like this, it can't be a good thing. So then I started doing some different research and reading up on it. It's like, maybe I don't need to be hyper flexible like I think I need to be. And, I don't have as much muscle and I don't have all these injuries. Why is all this tightness here? And as I started to do like more mild foam rolling and not being so aggressive on the body, literally grabbing my skin and pulling it up and moving it in different directions and then bouncing a bit on my feet, because I didn't do that for years. And just like jumping laterally, rotating. And the other little trick is I started just throwing a 10-pound ball. Like I would reach and go off the big toe and throw it. And I would have this sense of like relief throughout my body. And I'd do isometric holds and there'd be a relief throughout my body without any stretching. It felt like I stretched. So all that pointed towards maybe all along it's been all that weightlifting at high reps and contracting and moving slow is just tightening up the fascia system. The body's like a hydraulic. And, and I'm not doing anything to move this around. I've been training individual muscle groups for so long, shoving a bunch of blood and lactic acid into it, leaving it for 7 days and coming back and training it. And I'm not working anything together. I'm not rotating. I'm not pulling. And I'm not, I don't have multiple motor units firing at the same time. So all roads pointed towards maybe you should consider doing something a little bit different here than just stretching and, all these other drills that you've been doing. I don't think it's a tightness issue from the muscles all along. I think it was just the central nervous system almost saying like, that was the problem, was I wasn't putting the right inputs in. Right. And I think it just kept getting, the more I stretched, the tighter I would get. I'd stretch, get tight, stretch, get tight. And I still stretch. Don't get me wrong. I think we both would agree stretching's good. Oh yeah. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are in pain that just by adding a couple days in a week of like some athletic training, jump up on stuff, jump laterally, bounce around a little bit, throw something, use different motor units in different ways, cable rotations and things, you'll start to see a lot of relief that you wouldn't expect that's where it was coming from.
Yeah, the fascial system is fascinating. And, being a body work practitioner, acupuncturist, strength coach, it's especially getting out of the hospital myself, getting stronger and putting on the muscle wasn't relatively that hard for me. But what you lose, and again, we lose this as we get older, is that elasticity, that ability to hold tension. And that's where the structure comes from. And the way that the fascia works is it works on what's called the tensegrity principle. Everything's a set of cables pulling on these levers in different angles that create structure. But when you've got too much tension on one cable, it folds the structure and it deforms the structure. Mm-hmm. So coming back to your bodybuilding days of just back squat and all these very unilateral plane movements, one-dimensional movements, you are creating too much tension in the cables that being the fascial structure, and it started to pull the structure out of alignment.
Yeah.
And then the other cables around, they started to get overstretched. And fascia conducts pain 10 times, almost 10 times. They've got all the nerve endings in there.
Yeah.
So they're huge pain generating sites, and they generate pain 10 times faster than muscle does.
Mm-hmm.
So we always blame the muscles.
Yeah.
But when in actuality, what's covering the muscles and what's innervating the muscles is the fascia.
Yeah.
But it's a different structure that you have to train differently. And a lot of people don't realize that. And you have to isometrically hold, you have to bounce and hop, and you got to rotate explosively just to kind of go after all the things. But you intuitively figured out, you're like, look, this isn't working.
Yeah.
I got to do something different. And good on you. You realize what I'm doing is not working. I need to do something different. And then you figured out, oh, you know what? I'm not training this part of my system. And now the structure is more balanced and your nervous system is happier.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing too is bodybuilding movements. If you do the research back towards like the Nautilus days where they actually created the cam drive on the systems where it wasn't just like where there was actually like the match the body strength curve, that's where the whole slower eccentric and more explosive concentric came from, where it was like, well, they knew the machines couldn't handle it. Like if you like, you can't just go up and down on a machine, else the weight just bounces around. So it was like, you do a 3-second negative, a little bit of a pause, and then you would come up and you'd maybe do that 1 to 2 second concentric. Well, you do that over and over and you get obsessed with moving slower. You like stop training type 2 muscle fibers. You have no reactive time or explosiveness, and you just get bigger, stronger, slower, and less pliable, less mobility, and you don't have any coordination and you have so much instability. I remember the first time you got me to stand on one foot, raise my knee up, and then I was standing there and you're like, close your eyes, and I would just fall right over. Like it was just like a kid, like a little baby deer. And so like you combine that. And then I would think back when I was a kid, I can remember I'd be working in the back of my dad's truck and I would just jump out. And I would hit the ground and almost bounce off the ground. Like there was like and then if you watch sprinters, I watched the thing a couple of years ago where a guy had, I think it was David Goggins running and then a sprinter beside him. I don't know who the sprinter was. And the sprinter's bouncing down the track. And David Goggins is like, he's just grinding, like stiff and motoring and like just in
muscling.
So much,
he's muscling through it.
Muscling through it, right?
He's just muscling through it.
Yeah. So I started like thinking about this. I'm like, because my obsession is like, there's almost been this thing where like you can't have muscle and be functional. You can't have muscle. And then I look at Juju Mufu. Do you know who I'm talking? Juju?
Yeah. Juju Mufu. Yeah.
How is he hilarious. So flexible and doing all these explosive movements and carrying all this muscle, and he's strong? And so there's people doing it, but he also never stopped any of those practices as he gained muscle. He did it consistently throughout it. So I realized like there's one thing, once you've had the problem, it's hard to have all of it, to have your cake and eat it too. But I think you can have a significant amount of muscle in isolated and compound movements, create a lot of hypertrophy, a lot of strength. And as long as you still keep those other practices in place and you do the maintenance, you're never going to be optimal at either one. But I think you can have your cake and eat it too.
For sure.
And that's something I wish I would have realized, because I just didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. Right.
Yeah. And it's just going back now. You built up the muscle mass, but now it's just like, okay, let's take a couple steps back and then work on these components.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not going to take much to maintain what you've already built. Now it's just reshifting your focus on some of the other structure, that being the fascial system, neurological system, to increase efficiency effectively in how you move, become a little bit more springy. So you're using connective tissue to bounce off of instead of relying on muscles to create propulsion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so, well, outside of having this back issue that we talked about before we even started recording, which I think once you have a back injury, it's something, I don't know if I'll ever, Sebastian, that's the chiropractor, who's awesome at your clinic, he's convinced that he's like, there'll be a day come where you'll forget you ever even had this. I'm like, oh, well, I hope you're right. But I don't know if I believe you or not. But besides that, like things feel better now at 42. I'm 41. I'll be 42 in October now than I did at like even 28 or 28 to 32s, where all that pain was at its worst. Yeah. Remember how bad my shoulders were? Yeah. Like Dr. Khan, when he looked at my shoulders, he's like, you have arthritis of an 80-year-old man in your shoulders. And then fast forward to, we did the I think it's been about 4 years ago. So no, 3 years ago, he did more scans on them. And he's like, you've reversed this by 70%. What have you been
Oh,
doing?
that's awesome.
And I'm
Yeah.
doing the cars, rotations, and dead
Yeah.
hangs and the kettlebell work that you showed
Yeah.
me, band pull aparts.
Yeah.
And just when it gets flared up, I leave it alone now. So it's
Yeah.
all those stability movements and just shoving blood in there. It's all self-treatment,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
knees
The
are
body
better
has
than
an
ever.
amazing,
Yeah.
the body has an amazing ability to heal if we give it space to do so. And if we give it, I mean, you're taking the nutrients,
Yeah.
you're creating the inputs, you're applying the inputs and you're increasing blood flow, because really the body heals with blood. When we're always contracting a muscle or punishing a muscle, what are we doing to the blood? We're squeezing the blood out.
Yeah.
But you got to do something, which is why stretching is helpful, and soft tissue work. It allows blood to come back into the tissues that got stressed so that they can recover and become stronger.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we don't take the time to recover, and we'll call it decompress the body after compression,
Mm-hmm.
to allow things to restore back to equilibrium and homeostasis, so that the body can just do its job, clean the system and repair the tissues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to have learned all this. And that's for anybody that's listening, that's going through anything, a transition, an injury or whatever, hopefully that gives them some context to maybe even to put some inputs into their body.
Yeah. I'm going to shift gears for a second. We're going to go a little bit more business.
Yeah.
So you opened up Athletic Kulture
Mm-hmm.
with a bold vision, only
Yeah.
to face some incredible challenges.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from building and then losing that business?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say losing, but I mean, you sold off, and you
Yeah.
disclose what
Yeah.
you can disclose. Yeah. I want to know, what did you learn from that whole experience?
Yeah, there's a lot we can unpack there. And you know what's crazy,
Yeah.
before we even jump into that, I believe you were one of the very first people to know what I was doing, because
Yeah.
I brought you the original blueprints, which the design was actually on Kaplan Avenue by the Bank of Montreal Data Center. And the original Athletic Kulture was almost 30,000 square feet. And I was trying to convince you to put a concept of movement in it. And all the other things that were involved in it too,
and that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, of course it did. Of course it did, right? Of course it did. For some reason, I was fearless throughout that, and I think there's something to be said. Maybe we can jump into that if there's a young entrepreneur or somebody. I think God doesn't show you the journey, because if you knew, you probably just wouldn't even start in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's funny, as you get older and you get more knowledgeable, you start to realize you learn all this along the way, and you realize I still don't know anything. Back then I thought I knew everything. So what a journey it was. But what I learned through that is you are more capable than you could ever imagine of so many things. And you have no idea what you're made out of until you actually try. And the hardest thing you will ever go through is probably going to be the best thing that will ever happen to you. And that can be very hard for people to accept. And that could look at, for me talking to people, it could be like your experience, Tom, with almost losing your life and going through everything you went through. On the other side of that, there's so much gratitude, there's empathy, there's sympathy for other people. It's going to make you a better practitioner, a better father. You're going to show up with gratitude that just didn't exist before. But even though you get humbled and you have empathy and sympathy that I never carried with me before towards other people, I became so resilient and strong that it's unbelievable. And I think that is the masculine frame, to be able to be kind, to be calm, to be predictable, to not be aggressive towards people, to show love and protect people, but to be like ruthlessly dangerous at the same time. And that's what was probably the thing that I learned the most out of that. And I also got 20 years of entrepreneurship in about a 4-year journey. Because taking on a venture like that, I just didn't know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to design this club. And from day one, when I would talk about it to people, everybody tries to get you to think small. So if you're out there right now and you're going after something, chances are you're probably thinking too small. And you're doing it out of fear. You're going to take on a business partner that you probably shouldn't take on because you're scared to do it alone. You're going to take money from the wrong people because you don't believe the right people will give it to you. You're going to grab a hold of things that you shouldn't grab a hold of along the way because you're desperate. And you're probably going to end up getting yourself in a situation where you just ended up giving yourself a job versus a business that can operate without you, that's scalable, that creates a lot of jobs and can make a lot of money when you're not even in there. And those are the biggest things, that I would say that I took away from that. But you can go a lot further than that. And I think maybe we could even share the story quickly, the overview, so people understand the magnitude of what was created.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I decided I always wanted to have a gym. And I started my personal training career at 20, and I always rented. My first 6 months I worked at Good Life. I realized very quickly, I'm not going to make any money doing this. And so I started renting. So I spent 15 years renting from smaller gyms and personal training studios where I'd pay $1,000 or $1,500 a month. I charged my clients $100, $150 an hour, and I made a great living doing that. But I always wanted to build a gym. I just didn't know. I don't come from money. I don't have anybody that ever would give me the money to do it. And thank God I didn't ever have that, because I just would have lost it all anyways, because I didn't know what I was doing. Like, you don't deserve that anyway. Like, you want to go through the journey and learn how to deserve the money, and you want to be able to get to the point where you can convince somebody to give you money, because chances are you know what to do with it by the time. If I convince you to give me $1 million or $2 million, I'm going to know how to do a pitch deck, financials, and have everything nailed down.
Right.
So you're probably prepared to spend that money now versus taking money from your parents or something like that. So that's a good thing. If your parents aren't giving you money, thank them. You want to go out and earn it. That's a good thing, because you're just going to lose their money probably. Yeah. So I just started. I was like, okay, I know I want to design this gym. I don't know how to do it, but I know what a great gym looks like, right? I know what a Good Life in LA looks like. And I just started. I said, at that point, I was still much into like bodybuilding style training, but I was like, I'll just start with calves. These are the calf machines I love: hamstrings, posterior chain, back, chest equipment, squat racks. And at that point, the concept behind Athletic Culture was trying to bring all the facets of fitness together. That's why I put the gymnastic bars in there, the parallel bars, and I put the strongman stuff, and I put the turf track and the sprinting treadmills and the ski ergs. I was trying to bring components of CrossFit. And the whole concept behind Athletic Culture is, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you do yoga, you do CrossFit, you do powerlifting, bodybuilding, you're a golfer. We all are going through our struggles. We're all trying to overcome our confidence issues. We're all trying to overcome issues. We're tired. We're trying to stay focused. We're scared. And the lessons that are learned in athleticism are applied to everything else that you do in your life. And that was the message behind Athletic Culture. Originally, it was actually going to be a clothing line like a North Face type of vibe to it. So I started out down the journey of, just doing YouTube research. I had all the equipment. I got the price of that. I went and found a developer locally. He gave me a piece of paper, said, draw what it is that you want to do. And that's how it all started to come together. And then I built a pitch deck and a business plan. That took me 3 years to figure that all out. Right. So like, it was not some easy feat. Now I could do, if you came to me now, I could have you ready and you knew what you wanted. I could have that all built for you in 2 weeks and go get money for you. Like, it's like, like that, you just learn along the way. I learned that all myself. So fast forward, after 3 years, I finally was able to raise the capital. We needed $4 million. And we got the lease signed, the equipment ordered, the designs were done, and we're chugging along. And I was doing everything, Tom. Like, I was driving the forklift. I was there on construction with the general contractor. I, was building on the website, running the social media, setting up all the software systems, creating the content, posting the social media. I did 250 interviews to hire 47 people for opening, did all of the selling and pre-selling myself, and was even bolting down equipment along the way, designing clothing. Like, there wasn't anything that I didn't do, because we didn't have any money to hire anybody. Right. And then 8 weeks before, so picture 4.5 years of dumping into this, 5 locations, 8 weeks before we're ready to open the door. My dream is like right there, man. It's right there. Like, I pinch myself sometimes at this point in time, because I can't believe it's happening. Because I used to sit with my eyes closed and manifest this thing. I could close my eyes and I would actually picture shaking the hand of the front desk worker and the members. I could see it all. And it's right there. And then that's when the lockdowns hit, 8 weeks before we opened the doors.
I want to take a quick break from today's episode to share something I believe every rehab and performance professional should know about. For years, I saw too many clients go through the same cycle: short-term fixes, temporary relief, and then the same issues coming back again. That's why I built the Advanced Movement Therapist certification. It's not just another course. It's a system that helps you identify the real cause of a client's pain, give them results that actually last, and stand out in a crowded industry. You'll get practical tools and strategies that you can take straight into your sessions so you can help people get better faster. If you're ready to become the go-to clinician in your community, head to amtcertified.ca to learn more. That's amtcertified.ca. Your clients will thank you.
And the bank froze my line of credit, which was for $350,000. That head investor that had $750,000 left to put in decided not to put the rest of the money in. You can't blame him. He was scared. And
Yep.
the lease that I already paid the down payment on for the $1.2 million in equipment, they froze the lease and said, we're not giving it to you because we don't know when gyms are going to open again. And so, and I had like, at that point in time, my free rent had ran out. So I had like 2 weeks before everything just exploded. There was about 3 or 4 days where I basically just gave up because I didn't see a way out. And I would still go in. There was no construction. Remember, there was nobody on the roads or gas stations. A weird time. So picture the first 2 weeks of the pandemic. If anybody's watching this, think about what you did in the first 2 weeks of the pandemic. So picture being in my shoes. All this is happening. I would just go in and I would sit on the same stack of drywall every day for like 4 days. And I would cry. And I would like, at this point in time, I'm like, can't even keep food down, can't sleep. And just in having a pity party. And then finally, I just had this voice in my head. It's like, well, if this is all going to end, like at least go down swinging. So I've sent videos and inbox to Gary Vee, to Ed Milet, to like every influencer out there you could imagine. If they ever find out about the Ryan Hawks brand and you open up your Instagram or LinkedIn, there's going to be a video from about 6 years ago, 5 years ago, from begging you to help me. So at some point in time, that'll be funny if I ever get to the point where these guys actually, hey, check this out. They're like, oh my God, this guy sent me a message 5 years ago. I ended up saving it. So within I think it was 10 days from the day that happened, I raised $750,000 from a local investor who's just a great guy, a gentleman, local business owner. And he's like, yeah, screw it. Let's do it. I believe in it. This isn't going to last forever. And once I got that money put into the bank, RBC unlocked the line of credit.
Yep.
I never did get the lease approved again. But what ended up happening is the equipment was all customized. So by the grace of God, they didn't ask for the approval of all the leasing money to be released. They manufactured all the equipment and they're like, okay, we're ready to deliver. And I'm like, okay, bring it. They're like, yeah, we need you to sign off on the lease. I'm like, I don't have it. So they had to come and install it. And they came and installed it and they worked it. But the only unfortunate thing is the payments on that equipment were like, they were triple of what they should have been. So it was so front heavy. So we opened the door September 17th of 2020, I think was the date that we opened. And we were minus $1,200 in the bank and I had a $0 marketing budget and I had $140,000 in bills in 30 days. And we did almost $200,000 in those first 30 days with a $0. So no Google ads, no meta ads, no proper landing page. I didn't even have an offer. I didn't even have I didn't understand any of that stuff at that point in time. Like now we'll talk about my marketing agency now, which I can make gyms money now because I understand all those components. I did that through transparency, vulnerability, and just raw storytelling. And people wanted to get behind it. And it was a cool product. It was new. Nobody in town had done anything. It was energetic. It was, status pushing against the status quo. It was a bit punky. There was green colors. There was some Metallica and hip hop music playing. The dumbbells went to 200 pounds. The messaging behind it was like, just do it like Nike. It was like, get in here and be your best version. It wasn't like the Good Lifes in the LAs where it was like the soft approach where, it's really geared towards the person that's scared to come to the gym. It was geared towards becoming your best version at all cost and no excuses. And that, even though I said it politely, it was in the messaging and people resonated with it because at the end of the day, you'd be very surprised deep down how bad people want to be great. They want to be a great dad. They want to be a great wife. They want to be a great entrepreneur. They just don't express it, I think, out of fear. They want a great physique out of fear of not being able to achieve it. And the first time I realized this was it popped in my head. I was all within 1 week, I watched a UFC fight, a hockey game, and like a football game. And I'm looking at the people in the crowd. They're all overweight. They're regular people, 99% of them, and they're in it. And I'm looking in their eyes and I'm thinking, man, this guy feels like he's in the cage. Like right now, like he's like, there's a warrior inside everybody. And a lot of us have just never been pushed, actually been forced to get it out. And so that was the journey of Athletic Culture. We opened and then obviously we faced multiple more lockdowns. I'm very proud to say that I fought against those lockdowns. A lot of people at that. I took a lot of flack during that time. It's just, I wasn't trying to be a bad person, Tom. Like I knew I was in the right. And I wasn't, I abided on the first lockdown. I let you guys keep me closed for 6 months. I almost lost everything multiple times. I barely skidded by and we opened again and then you locked me down again. And so I proudly took those fines, and there was close to $500,000, right? And I proudly did that. And I look back now and I know it was the right decision, but I was like, this just doesn't make sense. And so it was a crazy time, pretty much lost everything throughout that journey. I ended up exiting and selling my shares in the business. And people ask me all the time, why did you sell? Was it just about money? Was it just about whatever? And the truth was, is by the time I was done building Athletic Culture, I knew it wasn't what I wanted anymore. I actually wanted to build something that was so much more, that had a wellness center, that had saunas and cold plunges and had all these other things and other aspects and hot yoga and Pilates, like, and other amenities. And I knew I could do so much more. And it was really an expression of the old Ryan. Athletic Culture is really, the modalities of it was the expression of the old Ryan. And I was stuck in a bad dream of like, I built this thing. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's still really cool. It's just not what I want. And it's not an expression of what I want to offer the fitness community and my community anymore. And it was a bad financial way. And I had an opportunity to go, and I took it, and went on my way.
Yeah. It's almost like, you shed this old cocoon of who you were, and that gym or that once old dream was, this is who I was, but then you evolved into something else during that whole process.
Yeah.
Would you say that during that time, it flipped or changed your perspective on entrepreneurship versus like when you went in before and then coming out?
Yeah.
Do you have a very different approach and
100%.
Yeah.
Because I thought everybody should be an entrepreneur back then. I quickly realized not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. I'm telling you right now, like there's people out there that will kill themselves or just make themselves sick. They're better to be an entrepreneur, man. Like it's like there's so many wonderful people out there that can become so wealthy and be so successful being an entrepreneur, or just there's nothing wrong with having a regular job. You look online and everybody makes entrepreneurship look like it's this really easy, fun, journey. And I mean, you and Kylie know better than anybody. There's a lot of struggles and a lot of heartache, and it's just not meant for everybody. And there's no shame in having a regular job where you just service somebody, whether it's a school teacher, a firefighter. You make your money and you play your cards right, and you're smart, and you can have a great retirement and a great life. But for me, I'm meant to be an entrepreneur, and I know that wholeheartedly. There's nothing else I would ever be able to do. I love chaotic environments. I love being scared, and I'll jump when I'm really, really scared. And I'm able to handle an insane amount of pressure, and I can see things long before other people can see stuff. I'm able to hold visions in my head with extreme clarity, and I'm able to hold up multiple components inside a business of the creativity side and the organizational and pricing and all these things. And it's just very clear to me that I'm meant to do it. So I do have a different outlook on entrepreneurship than I had before I went into it. And definitely there's a greater understanding and appreciation for what it takes to build something great.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned in our earlier conversation that you can now achieve more by doing less. How did you get to that point where effort became more about clarity as opposed to the grind?
Yeah, there's a couple things in there. One, I think it's just accumulation of knowledge, right? It's just an accumulation of, I've done so many different things. It's organizational skills. It's execution upon many different things, because the thing about my business is I had to do so many different things. Like I had to literally pick out every piece of equipment that went in there, design everything. I did the branding. I did the mission statements, the taglines, all the copywriting, the content, the social media. But I also had to do all the marketing and all the selling and hire everybody. And so when you do everything end to end and then work with the city and get permits and all the contracting and construction, there's nothing in there that I didn't do in that business at a very high level. So there's just that aspect of simplicity, the simplicity of just going through it and doing it. But on the other side of that too, I think there's something that I've learned along the way. Everything I ever achieved in my life, I did it through grinding myself into a fine powder. I would just work harder and do more. And I think I would even go towards things that maybe, if you want to call it God, universe, for me at this point in my life, I call that God, a direction, going in directions maybe I'm not supposed to go into. And I would just bend it and continue to go, maybe be in relationships I shouldn't be in, friendships, partnerships, or business ideas. And as I've gotten older, it's almost like I can move things so quickly and things come and align with where I want to. Maybe it's because I know where I'm going and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Right. And I'm doing it with a clear mind and a grateful heart. And so there's something to that, but there's also just the knowledge of having done those things over and over so many times and knowing what works and what doesn't work, right? Because a lot of times, I bet you there's going to be people watch this that are, you're trying to focus on building something and you just get these blockages. Like, you know what you want to do, but you're just like frozen, right? Because you're like, you don't know what to do next. So like you just freeze, and maybe you sit at the computer and then you look at social media and you check your emails for the 10th time, and like, you just can't make it happen. Like, you're stuck. But when you do something so many times, you know what you have to do, right? You know from end to end what needs to be done. And so there's that, but there's also something magical about knowing where you want to go and being wholeheartedly into it, and things just aligning at a level that you can't explain.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that suffering often precedes clarity, or kind of that self-deprecation or not self-destruction, but, creating that discomfort or that pain? It's almost like we push ourselves to go into that so that we gain clarity. Why do you think that is from your perspective?
I mean, I think that the human experience is supposed to be scary, and it's supposed to be full of love, and it's supposed to be full of loss. I think that if that's what we're here for, is to experience it at the highest level. We're here to create order. I think if you look at the simplicity of the ants and the birds, and everything's in order, doing what it's supposed to do. The sun does what it's supposed to do. The moon, and as humans, we're supposed to get up and create, and we're supposed to participate in the order of the world, whatever that talent is for you. But I don't think that life would be beautiful without the hardship and without the challenges. And I think that's such an important thing for us to accept wholeheartedly, that that's going to come. So like, enjoy it, be happy. But I think purpose for men specifically is very important, whatever that is. Maybe it's being the greatest dad. Maybe it's just being honest and truthful and doing what's right. There's purpose in that. Like, you don't have to be a pro athlete. You don't have to be a big entrepreneur and make a bunch of money. And maybe you want to be a dad or a mom and you haven't been blessed with children yet. Maybe you can't have them, but there's purpose and meaning in just like the struggle of like doing what you said you were going to do, and just being an honest person and showing up for people around you. And when you go through those struggles, you're just forced to face yourself, because like, it's easy to lie and be happy when everything's going well, but when everything's going against you and it feels like the whole world's coming down on you, you're really forced to like look in the mirror and really face who you are. And when things get very difficult and all you want to do is give up and everybody's watching and you have to keep showing up, you're really faced with like what your real character is, what your values are, and how much you have in you to give. And when you get through something like that and you get to the other side of it, there's two things that happen. One, you become very resilient and strong and very confident in yourself. But you also, coming out the other side of something like that, you realize that you're not alone, and there's a lot of help in the universe to like align things. And like, because there's so many things that'll happen that like, for you, like the odds of you making it out of the hospital room and going through what you went through, like, you can take all the credit for that and be like, it was from the working out and whatever, and those all played a big role. But I just think you were meant to be here for more too, right? Like, it wasn't your time to go, right? So you realize that as well along the way.
That's not the first time that someone said that. A friend of ours who's a paramedic, and she had a conversation with Kylie, and she's like, well, Tom's supposed to be here. He's got a purpose. Because she would go up to these car accident scenes and she would see these horrific wrecks. And, you walk up to it, you're like, nobody survived that.
Yeah.
And then everybody's standing right next to their car unscathed. And then she'll walk up to these other car wrecks that seem very minor.
Yeah.
Everyone's dead. Yeah. So she's like, yeah, your husband is supposed to be here. There's a reason why he's still here and why he didn't pass over. So, it's interesting that you say that. And also now from that perspective, it's don't squander this second chance.
Yeah, man. Don't
piss it away.
Yeah. Like I've never really got to sit and have that. We've had a couple conversations since that, I think, but mostly around business and nothing of like real depth and substance, which hopefully I get to have that with you at some point. Because
for sure,
I'd be amazed, intrigued, but probably just amazed by the mindset of what you came out with. Because I've never faced like going through, like you hear the story of like what happened with AK or whatever. Honestly, that's the greatest thing that ever, I wouldn't change a thing. People are like, oh, that's cliche. No, I'm telling you, I wouldn't change anything. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be close to who I am today. And I have the coolest job in the world, man. Like right now I have the coolest gig in the world. Like I get to pick out the equipment for like the coolest clubs in the world, where some pieces are $30,000 a pop. Like I get to travel and go try it out. I get to work on the layouts with it, the branding behind it. I'm partnering with these manufacturers and getting to go travel and see the manufacturing and engineering process and designing some of the coolest stuff in the world. And it's like, it's so exciting. And also I'm helping them be successful through their marketing practices and building out all these teams. And like, I'm living out my dream right now, but it's also everything that I learned along the way that I'm just so grateful for as well. And, but I've like all that set aside at the base level, like you can go through the hardest thing in the world, but there's only one thing that matters. And that is like life. Like no matter how hard everything gets at the end of it, it's like you could have been gone. And, and I'm sure you've sat and think about that. Those little babies, you got the cutest kids in the world. You have an amazing wife, all these people that you built this business up, like, and you're here, bro,
I know. Yep. It's, thinking about it in the moment, I never thought I was dying. I never thought I'm like, well, this is it. I'm just like, I'm super sick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll deal with it. This sucks a lot. And everything hurts and everyone's got to do everything for me. But I'm like, yeah, okay, well, like we'll just keep grinding through this and everything will be fine. But, I didn't know how severe it was until I got into the rehab floor and I asked one of the docs, I said, what were my odds? Just kind of being a smart ass, right? He's like, oh, less than 20%. I was like, oh shit, I was sick. He's like, you were super sick, and I had, my toes went black. They thought I was going to lose limbs. They thought I was going to be on dialysis because my kidneys were failing, but they all came back to come out with all my limbs. So people who usually survive sepsis, toxic shock, they usually get the flesh-eating disease.
Yeah.
And they usually lose legs and arms and hands and whatnot. And I lost maybe the tip of my second toe. And that's the only scar I have from that journey. Of course, a physical scar, but it's pretty wild how all that occurred and then came out the other side. But now, like, I'm back at gymnastics and I'm flipping around, and I saw Dr. Khan, got some stem cells. So doing all the right things now, and things are good. Things are good. So it's moving forward. Still stuff that I'm working on, but what else am I going to do with my time? Might as well keep focusing on working on the body that I've been working on the 46 years of my life.
Yeah. And your willingness and your desire to learn more and to be more and to give more. And that's why I'm so grateful that you're doing this podcast now to spread, because you have so much to give the world. And I hope this podcast, not just this one, but I hope your podcast blows up, and I hope people invite you on podcasts and pick your brain and, and allow you to give back. Because for you to, like I told you that, like for you to just be in a clinic in Barrie is like, you're meant to be so much more than that. Not that that's not awesome. It's awesome. But like for you to go out and help other, practitioners explore and to become better and to get your word out to people in your story. Right. So I'm excited to see what the next couple of years looks like for you, man.
I appreciate you saying that. One last question. If you were to go back and mentor your younger self, just entering the fitness industry, what would you say to them?
Oh man, that's a really hard one, because you want to say, there's so many times I just want to save people. Like I want to take away all their problems and like say, no, don't go that way. Go this way. Trust me. You don't want to do that. Like you want to do this, and this. Yeah. Which is good, because now they're going to get where they should go faster, but oh my God, I wouldn't trade all those lessons. So like that, that's a very hard question for me to answer. And I'm going to think about that probably for the next 2 days. But what I will say is this: is good advice isn't always good advice for everybody. And you should be very careful who you give your advice to and who you take your advice from. And that goes for everything, because some people need to hit a brick wall to learn their lesson. And even is the basics of exercise and nutrition, like a keto diet can be amazing for somebody and detrimental for someone else. Yeah. Fasting can be great for someone and detrimental to some other people, right? Intermittent fasting can be bad for people. So just the basic supplementation, certain types of exercise, flexibility can be bad for people. And telling someone that they should go after their dream and be an entrepreneur could be horrible advice for the wrong person and great for someone else.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm getting ready to give advice to anybody, I try to really think about, is it the right advice for that person and where they're at? And I'll do that through asking questions before I answer the questions. But one thing that I think I would tell my younger version is that it's going to get really hard, but it's okay, because none of it matters, because you're going to live through it all. You're going to live. And when it gets really dark and really scary, it's supposed to be like that. It's just there because you need to find yourself, and it's going to make you a better person. So go through the fear with your chin up and never give up, and just keep moving forward no matter how hard it gets, because none of it matters. It really doesn't on the grand scheme of things. Like when you're humiliated and and you think that everyone's laughing at you, or that people are going to judge you, or like you're losing something, like none of it matters, man, because you're going to always be okay, and you're going to be alive. And that's really probably the advice that I would give. And I'd be very specific on any other advice that I would give. And I never used to be like that. I used to be on social media preaching and motivating, and, and I'm still like to do that. But I've realized along the way that, not just good advice isn't good advice for everybody. As much as you'd like it to be like, get up early and chase your dreams and do this, and you want them, everybody's like, depression isn't a real thing. And, like everybody's different, and you have to meet people where they're at, and you have to approach your advice with love and with good intention. And then you break that down from there, because there is good advice. Good advice can be good advice as long as it's for the right person at the right time, on the right journey where they need to hear it.
Well, that is some great advice. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ryan Hawks, where can people find you?
So you can go to the Real Ryan Hawks on Instagram. That's probably the one social media platform that I update the most. You can go to info. You can go to ryanhawks.com if you want to find out more information. And you can also go to my new agency, athloagency.com. So all of those. But if you go to my Instagram, you'll find me everywhere else.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Okay, man.
Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of Staying Relevant. If you enjoyed it, check out the AMT certification at amtcertified.ca, where we help clinicians and coaches get better results faster. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes, and share this with a coach, clinician, or athlete who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep staying relevant.